Good day everyone! Welcome to our review on Management Advisory Services. And this time, we are going to talk about capital budgeting. So when we say capital budgeting, this refers to the process of identifying, evaluating, planning, and financing capital investment projects of an organization. When you say identifying, dito pa lang sa stage na to, inaalam na ng company ano ba yung gusto niyang mangyari or ano ba yung gusto niyang pasukin na business or ano yung objective niya. And after coming up with project proposal, it could be one or even more than one, they try to evaluate if these projects are really worth doing. Paano natin malalaman kung worth doing? Number one is we have to check the cost of this project. And after that, we have to check the benefit as well. Ano bang madederive natin na benefit out of doing this capital investment project? So with that, if the benefit would exceed the cost, most likely we are going to proceed with that specific na project. So once we are convinced na gagawin na natin yung project na yan, that's the time that we plan for the project and we try to come up with our budget. And after that, we now determine saan natin huhugutin yung mga pondo or yung financing natin sources of this capital investment projects. So here are the projects that a company may enter into. So the first two actually, kapag meron tayong mga equipment na siguro for some reason luma na, kaya naman ang laki na ng maintenance cost natin. So minsan, mukhang mas mura pa to buy or purchase a new equipment rather than having all the equipment na i-repair. So either way, the company will still incur cost. So depende sa company kung ano pipiliin niya dun sa dalawang options na yan. And then we also have some expansion. It could be from the existing product, pwede tayo mag-come up with a new product. O kaya naman yung existing product natin gusto natin ma-reach out pa natin mas maraming market by expanding through opening more stores to reach out the customers. So depende sa company. It could also be related to safety and environmental projects or any other projects. Okay? Basta, sa lahat ng projects na to, ang makikita natin na number one, there is large commitment of the resources. Hindi basta-basta yung amount na nakatali dito sa mga project na to. Malalaki talaga to normally. And hindi lang malaki, long-term pa yung commitment. So for the longest time, yung pera mong malaki ay nakatali dun sa project na yan. Kaya kailangan sobrang ingat tayo with coming up with our long-term decision. Because ang long-term na mga projects ay mas mahirap i-reverse as compared to the short-term decisions. And dahil long-term nga siya, mas exposed siya sa mas maraming risk at uncertainties. Kaya naman, when we are trying to come up with long-term decisions or capital investment projects, we have to consider three things. Okay? So, number one is your estimated cash flow. As early as now, we have to establish ano kaya yung estimated natin or yung forecasted natin na cash flows. So, meron tayong cash flow na mangyayari right now or at the start of the project at yung mga cash flow na mangyayari during the execution of the project or plan. So, we will compare that. So, number one, ang unang mangyayari ay cash outflow and that is your net investment. Pag sinabi mong net investment, that could either be lahat ng costs associated with that investment, pero syempre we have to deduct if there are possible savings na mangyayari because of that investment project. Ano ba yung mga costs na tinutukoy natin? Number one is initial cash outlay covering all expenditures na related sa project up to the certain point na pwede mo nang masimulan yung project mo. So meaning, that would include lahat ng mga purchase price natin, ng ating mga fixed asset, kasama na yung mga installation, yung test run ng ating mga equipments and so on. So basically, all expenditures related dun sa ating project. Also, kung meron tayong mga working capital requirement to operate the project at the desired level, ibig sabihin, kapag meron tayong project kasi, syempre, for the first few months, dapat meron na tayong nakahanda na working capital. So, certain amount of inventory, para pag nag-open yung store natin, meron tayong mabebenta agad, or kaya meron tayong magagamit in our production. So, at the desired level, ano ba yung working capital requirement natin? So, kasama siya sa computation of your net investment. Plus, just in case meron tayong mga existing pero currently idle asset, na ang intention natin, these assets will be transferred or utilized on the operations, yung market value ng idle asset nito will also be part of your cost. So, most likely, itong tatlo na yan yung part ng costs natin sa net investment. But just in case, merong mga savings or cash inflow, we have to deduct that. Ano ba yung mga savings na yan? Kung yung old equipment natin, for example, may value pa, ita-trade in natin. So, the trade-in value of that old asset would be deducted to arrive at your net investment, or that is part of your savings. Also, just in case na ibebenta natin yung old asset natin, the proceeds from the disposal or sale of old asset, kung meron lang tayong gain, so meaning the proceeds is greater than the book value of the asset, so yung less tax tayo related to the gain. Pero kung meron tayong loss on sale, i-add naman natin yung tax savings natin. Okay? Kasi lahat ng savings dito. Okay? Kaya kung may gain, ima-minus mo dun sa proceeds natin. And then lastly, just in case na meron tayong avoidable cost of immediate repairs on old asset to be replaced, net of tax as well. Okay? Yung old asset natin, kung gagamitin natin yan, annually, possible na may mga repairs and maintenance costs. Pero ang tinutukoy natin sa letter C, yung avoidable cost is yung immediate repairs on old asset to be replaced. Ano lang yung ma-avoid natin? Okay, and that is net of tax. And to compute for your net investment, you simply deduct savings from cost. So cost minus your savings, or your cash outflows minus all your cash inflows. Okay, so let's try to solve a problem. So here is the problem kay Chantal Company. Ang ating requirement is to compute for the net investment. Okay, so let's read the problem. Highlight ko yung mga importanteng items here. There. So, the management plans to replace a sorting machine that was acquired several years ago at cost of 50. The salvage value is 5. Pero 60,000 yung new machine, and then the old machine can be sold for 6,000. So from here we can see na meron tayong gain na 1,000 pesos. So, meron tayong gagawin dyan pagdating sa computation of net investment. If a new machine is not purchased, Chantal Company will spend 20,000 to repair the old machine. So, that could be the avoidable cost. Okay? And then the cost of the repair machine, to repair the old machine can be deducted in the first year to compute income tax. Tax rate is 40%, and also assume that the acquisition of new machine will require additional investment in working capital of 10,000. So let's compute for the net investment. Since net investment na tanong, ang kailangan natin dito ay yung cash outflow minus the cash inflow, or yung cost natin minus the savings. Ang cash outflow natin or yung mga cost natin would include, number 1, yung purchase price natin ng ating new sorter, and that is amounting to 60,000. And also, meron tayong working capital na requirement, that is 10,000. Wala naman tayong idle asset na dadalhin sa operations natin, so wala nang kasama. So ito na yung total na costs natin, and that is 70,000. Okay? I-minus natin yung savings natin. So number 1, meron pa tayong trade-in allowance? Wala, kasi binenta natin yung old equipment. So what we have is yung proceeds natin. Ang proceeds natin ay magkano nga? 6,000. Pero remember, meron tayong proceeds na 6,000, ang book value ay 5,000, so meron tayong gain. So if meron gain, may additional tax tayo. So sa savings yan ay naka-negative doon. So tax on gain, magkano yung gain? 1,000 times tax na 40%. So magkano yung gain natin? That is 400. So ima-minus natin yung tax on gain natin. And then after that, What else we have? We have here the avoidable cost. Kasi kung yan ay pipiliin yung old machine, i-repair yan. So meron tayong avoidable cost na 20,000. So avoidable cost. At yan ay 20,000 kasi net of tax tayo, kaya multiply natin ng 60% or 1 minus the tax rate. So that is 12,000. Therefore, ang savings natin ay 18 minus 4, 70,600. Kaya naman ang ating net investment for this problem is 52,400. Okay? So that's for the first problem in net investment. Going back to the factors that affect our long-term decision, so we have net investment under estimated cash flow. So ito yung outflow sa pinag-uusapan natin sa estimated cash flow. We have BNC para sa inflow naman this time. So the first is cash return, and then we also have terminal value. At the end of the life of the project, pwede pa rin natin ma-dispose yung mga assets that we have for certain value, or the entire project could be disposed for a certain value, and that is what we call terminal value. It could also be referred to as the residual or scrap value. Cash returns, ito usually ko compare natin sa net return. Cash income versus net income. So ano bang pagkakaiba nung dalawa na yon? So we have here our income statement. So sales minus all your expenses, kasama yung cost of goods sold and your operating expenses. So we have here operating income. So minus the income tax, we will arrive at our net income or what we call net returns. Ngayon, since sa expenses natin, hindi naman lahat ng expenses ay cash. Kaya naman, to arrive at the cash returns, we have to add back all the non-cash expenses tulad ng depreciation expense. So if we add back the depreciation expense, we will arrive at our cash returns. So yun yung pagkakaiba nung dalawa na yan. So check natin sa given, ano yung ibinigay sa problem. Kung net income ba or cash return. Okay. So let's take a look at this example. We are asked to determine the cash inflow, the net cash inflow, and the net returns. So from this problem, we have Viray Incorporated considering an investment of 2 million. So depreciation is 200,000 to be deducted in each of the next 10 years. So walang terminal value. Okay? A selling price of 40, unit variable cost of 18. So we have CMU of 22. And fixed operating costs, sabi niya, excluding depreciation are estimated at 400,000. Okay? So the sales would be 50,000 units, and then the income tax ay 30%. So let's solve for the net cash inflow and the cash or the net returns. So to compute for your net income and cash returns, gawa lang tayo ng income statement. So that would be your sales minus your variable cost, we have the contribution margin, minus the fixed cost, we have our operating income, minus the taxes, we have our net income. Ito yung tinatanong natin sa problem. Plus, i-add back natin yung depreciation expense. We will come up with our cash return. Okay? So, ang sales natin is 40 pesos per unit. Ang variable cost ay 80. So, ang CMU natin ay 22 per unit. So, dito medyo pwede natin i-cut. Multiply natin ng 50,000. Ang contribution margin natin ay 1,100,000. Okay? So, ang fixed cost natin may 400,000 daw, excluding the depreciation expense. Pero syempre, kasama yung depreciation expense doon na 200,000. So, that would be 600,000. Therefore, the operating income is 500,000. Tax rate is 30%. So, ito po ay 150,000. So, therefore, ang net income ay 350,000. So, to answer the other question, depreciation expense, ibalik lang natin itong 200,000 na to, plus 200,000, that is our cash return of 550,000. Cash returns. Okay? So, those are the answers in our problem under Viray Company. So here is another example or sample problem. We are asked to determine the net investment and annual net cash inflow of Itable Incorporated. Okay, unahin natin yung net investment. So, we have to identify magkano ba yung cost ng ating new equipment. So, that would be 120,000. Okay, 120,000. So, yung new equipment, 120. Tapos, meron pa ba tayong working capital requirement? Wala. Wala tayong market value ng idle asset na gagamitin sa production, wala rin. So, savings tayo. So, sa savings, anong meron tayo sa savings? We have trading allowance, wala. So, we have proceeds, yes. So, ang market value ng old equipment now is 25,000. Okay? And then, check natin kung may gain or loss. The book value is 20. So, benta ng 25,000. So, we have gain na 5,000. So, again, meron tayong tax on our gain. So, in that effect, meron tayong outflow on that. Kaya naman ito, tax on gain ay marireduce ng 5,000. Multiply natin ng 30%. So, that would be 1,500. Okay? Meron ba tayong avoidable cost na binigay? Wala naman. Therefore, our net investment is equal to 120 minus ito. So, that would be 96,500. Okay, that is your net investment. To compute for the annual net cash inflow, walang binigay ng mga sales, variable costs, etc. Ang ibinigay sa atin would be yung effect na kapag nagkaroon tayo ng bagong equipment. So, for example, cash operating cost dati, 75,000. Ngayon, ang operating or annual cash cost would be 35,000. So, with that, magkakaroon tayo ng savings na cash saving na from 75,000 minus 35,000 na bagong annual cash cost. So, that would be 40,000 na cash savings. Okay? So, we have the cash savings sa 40,000. We have the depreciation expense. Madadagdagan tayo ng expense na magkano. So, that is 120,000 divided by 5. Okay? So, magkano yung depreciation expense natin? 24,000. So, may savings na 40. May depreciation expense na 24,000. Net effect would be operating income na 16,000. Okay? Increase in the operating income. Therefore, minus the taxes, anong tax natin? 30%. So that would be, magkano ito? 4,800. So therefore, the net income is 11,200. So to compute for your cash return, add back lang natin yung depreciation na 24,000. So depreciation expense na 24,000. Therefore, your cash return ay 35,200. Okay? So that would be your net investment, 96,500. Cash return na 35,200. So that's for Itable company. Going back sa factors affecting the long-term decision after estimated cash flow, we now have the cost of capital. So we are hoping na after we have earned something dito sa number 1, hopefully it could be enough to cover your cost of capital. So sabi natin sa definition ng capital budgeting, kasama yung financing the capital investment project. So depende kung ano yung magiging source ng capital natin para depende kung ano yung magiging cost ng capital natin. But this is another topic actually because in this video, ang focus natin ay capital budgeting techniques. So, given na yung cost of capital. In another video, pag-uusapan natin how do we compute for the cost of capital. Okay? So, for the meantime, let's talk about ano-ano ba yung ibang tawag sa cost of capital. Sometimes it is called hurdle rate, required rate of return, or minimum required rate of return kasi at least kahit paano kung kumita ka ng, kung ang cost of capital mo ay 12%, sana kumita ka ng 12% din. So parang minimum required rate of return, bawi man lang. Okay? Sometimes it is called cut-off rate or opportunity cost. Ito yung mga possible sources of your capital or finances. Okay? So it could be galing kay creditor. So ang capital natin ay long-term debt. At ang cost niya ay after-tax rate of interest. Napunta lang din eh. Okay, so after-tax rate of interest. Kapag stockholders naman ang source ng ating capital, it could be preferred stockholders or common stockholders. Ito ay preferred stock or common stock. Ang kapalit niyan ay dividends. Yun yung ibig sabihin natin sa cost. Ano ba yung kapalit ng mga capital that we acquired? Okay? And sometimes, the source is our retained earnings. Mula pa noon, nagsaset aside na tayo ng income natin so that when the time comes na gusto natin mag-expand, gusto na natin mag-replace ng equipment and so on, we will have enough money para i-finance yung project na yan. Definitely, andun na talaga yung retained earnings sa loob ng company. But, meron pa rin yung cost and that is your opportunity cost. Why? Kasi kung yung retained earnings na yan ay dinistribute mo sa mga common stockholders, sana itong mga common stockholders ay na-reinvest nila into any other investment opportunities. Sana kumita yan at least ng mga dividends or any other opportunity. Kaya naman, meron tayong opportunity cost as far as the decision is concerned pagdating sa ang source ay yung retained earnings natin. Kaya ang detailed discussion nito would be in another video. So just to complete the factors, we have the acceptance criteria. Sabi natin kanina, sana enough to para mabayaran yung cost of capital, yung interest, for example, kung inutang man natin yon. Pero sometimes may mga managers or may mga owners na ayaw nila na bawi lang nila yung cost of capital. Gusto nila more than that. Kaya naman, depende kung ano yung acceptance criteria na isa-set ng management or ng may-ari ng kumpanya. For example, bawi pala yung investment in 3 years. Pero ayaw pala ng managers or ayaw ng may-ari ng 3 years, gusto nila 1 year lang. So kahit na mababawi naman, 1 year lang ang gusto nila. So, pwedeng ma-reject pa rin yung project because of this acceptance criteria. Pero kung walang acceptance criteria na sinabi sa exam, or walang acceptance criteria na sinet ang owners, as long as kumikita yung company, that would be okay. Okay? We can accept the project kung meron naman tayong budget. Now, after natin ma-consider itong mga factors na to, let us now use the common evaluation techniques dito sa mga projects na to determine if you are going to proceed or not. Or is it really worth it na gawin yung project or not? Okay? Meron tayong mga methods that do not consider the time value of money. So we have payback, bailout, and accounting rate of return. Sa payback, meron din tayong tinatawag na payback reciprocal. Okay? And then, for those methods that consider the time value of money, these are the most common: the net present value, the profitability index or PI, discounted payback. Parang payback lang din siya pero nagko-consider siya ng time value of money. And the discounted cash flow rate of return, this is also known as your IRR or internal rate of return. Okay. Ang payback period will tell you how long you are going to recover your investment based on the annual cash returns that we have. Pero ang bailout period will also tell you the same, except that yung annual cash return dito, ina-add natin lagi yung estimated salvage value at the end of each year. So, ibig sabihin, every year, meron tayong estimate ng salvage value natin. So, i-add lang natin yon sa annual cash return in consideration para malaman natin kailan ba natin possible mabawi yung ating investment. Okay? Annual cash accounting rate of return is also known as the book value rate of return or annual rate of return. And sometimes this is also your average return on investment or ROI in our FS analysis before. With the net present value, kino-compare natin yung value ng investment natin today against sa present value ng lahat ng cash returns natin in the future. Kumbaga, yung cash returns natin in the future, ibabalik natin into present para may compare natin at par with the investment at present. So, in that way, malalaman natin if we have positive or negative na net present value. And profitability index, kung ito, minaminus natin yung investment, dito naman, i-divide lang natin yung investment. So, kumbaga, dito, present value of cash returns minus investment. Ito naman, present value of cash returns divided by your investment. Number 3, the discounted payback period is just the same with the payback except that it considers the time value of money. Ibig sabihin lang, kung kino-consider mo dito annual cash return, kunin mo yung present value ng annual cash return at doon natin malalaman how long are we going to recover our investment. Okay? And then the IRR or internal rate of return is the point wherein your net present value is equal to 0. Kasi this is the rate of return wherein the present value of your cash return ay equal sa net investment. Ibig sabihin, kung 0 to, your profitability index will be 1. Kasi equal nga yung numerator at denominator natin in the case of the computation of your profitability index. Sa exam, minsan sa mga theories, itinatanong, ano ba yung advantages and disadvantages of these methods or common evaluation techniques? So, let's go through sa mga advantages and disadvantages na yan. For payback period, ang advantage niyan is this is really simple to compute and easy to understand. Walang interest rate na pinag-uusapan or you just have to answer parang how soon will the investment cost would be recovered. And also, ang payback, it gives information about liquidity of the project. And it is also a good surrogate for risk. Kasi yung quick payback period will indicate na less risky yung project. Kung mahaba yung payback period, mas risky naman yung project natin. There are also disadvantages. Number 1 is, yun nga, hindi siya nagko-consider ng time value of money. So, nai-ignore niya. But in reality naman talaga, the value of our money today is not the same sa value nito in the future. So, ito yung weakness ng payback period, yung hindi niya pag-consider ng time value of money. But the normal businessman, yung mga karaniwan na nagbi-business, normally, they preferred with just looking at the payback period. Also, it gives more emphasis on liquidity. Sabi natin dito, advantage niya. Pero, rather than on profitability. So, ibig sabihin, sabi natin kailan mare-recover. So, it's more on return of investment. So, binabalik lang investment versus return on investment. Magkaiba kasi silang dalawa. And, it does not consider the salvage value of the project. So, hindi kasama sa consideration or sa formula natin yung salvage value of the project. And it ignores the cash flow that may occur after a payback period. For example, for 5 years, nabawi mo yung investment mo. Medyo matagal kung ang gusto ng mga ng may-ari ay 1 year lang. So, 1 year lang, 5 years mababawi. Pero on the 6, 7, 8, and so on years, dun pala bumuhos lahat ng cash returns. So, ibig sabihin, inaalam mo lang kailan mababawi. So, nai-ignore niya yung cash flows that may occur after the payback period. For your ARR, here are the advantages. So, it closely parallels accounting concepts of income measurement and investment. Also, it facilitates re-evaluation of projects due to the ready availability of data from the accounting records. And also, it considers income over the entire life of the project. And it indicates the project's profitability. Kaya lang, another disadvantage, same thing with payback period, it does not consider the time value of money. And the effect of inflation is ignored, but in fact, hindi naman talaga pwedeng i-ignore. So for the net present value, advantage niya is it emphasizes cash flows and recognizes the time value of money. So it also assumes discount rate as the reinvestment rate, and this is easy to apply. And disadvantage nito, quick run through lang, it requires, dapat alam mo yung cost of capital. Ibig sabihin, sa factors natin kanina, tatlo yung factors natin that affect the long-term decision. dun lang sa mga methods that consider the time value of money, magmamatter yung cost of your capital or the discount rate to be used. So different competing projects may not be comparable because of differences in magnitudes or sizes of the project. So maaring pare-pares na positive or equal sila ng, let's say ang net present value is positive 10,000, lahat sila 10,000. Kaya lang napakalaki naman pala nung investment nito sa iba compared dun sa iba. So hindi siya ganun ka-comparable kapag ang ginagamit natin ay net present value. Mas okay siya if we are considering the same amount of initial investment. We also have the IRR. So ito kasi mga most common na ginagamit. Ang advantage ng IRR, just like the NPV, it emphasizes cash flows and kino-consider ang time value of money. Plus, it computes the true return of the project. Okay? Kaya lang, ang disadvantage niyan, assumes that the IRR is the reinvestment rate. And when the project includes negative earnings during their economic life, different rates of return may result. Okay? Alright, so I prepared 11 problems for us to solve, and we are going to apply the methods that we have mentioned earlier. So let's start with problem number 1. So requirements in problem 1 are your payback period, and then your payback reciprocal and accounting rate of return. So as you, and if you can see, yung cash flows natin ay even for the entire na 6 years. Okay. So number 1, payback period or payback or PB. So that would be your investment over your cash returns, your annual cash returns. Kasi pare-parehas lang naman, so this is how we compute for your payback period. So your investment is 210,000 pesos divided by the 55,000 na cash return. So therefore, that would be for 3.82 years. Okay? What does it mean? After mo i-execute yung project mo after 3.82 years, so we're going to recover your 210,000 na investment. Okay? So it says in number 2, we have to compute for the payback reciprocal. Yung payback reciprocal, from the term itself, reciprocal lang naman siya, so 1 over your payback. So that would be 1 over 3.82 years. So in other words, that would be 26.19%. Okay? What does it tell us? Yung payback reciprocal. Ibig sabihin, every year, we are going to recover 26.19% of our investment. And that would be for 3.82 years. Okay? So that's payback period and your payback reciprocal. Okay. Then we are now asked to compute for your accounting rate of return. So yung ARR natin, so that would be, sabi natin kanina, ARR is also the book value rate of return or the average return on investment. O return on investment, ibig sabihin, investment is your denominator, your numerator is your net income. Okay. Kaya lang, ang given sa atin ay hindi naman net income, kundi cash return. If you remember kanina sa ating formula, so sales minus all your expenses. So we have our operating income minus taxes. We have our net income. Itong net income yung nire-require ng accounting rate of return. But remember, cash return yung given sa atin na 55,000. Nasaan yung cash return? If we add back the depreciation expense, that's the only time that we can compute for your cash return. So, kung given ang cash return natin, alam natin yung depreciation expense, to arrive at net income, ang gagawin natin, that would be cash return minus your depreciation expense. Okay? So, ARR for number 1 is your cash return minus your depreciation expense. Okay? Over your investment. Okay. So, yung cash return natin ay 55,000. Magkano yung depreciation expense natin? Hindi sinabi, pero yung cash returns natin ay for 6 years. Ibig sabihin, the life of the project is for 6 years. So, 210,000 divided by 6 years. So, depreciation expense is 210,000 divided by 6 years. That is 35,000. So, ibig sabihin, this is 35,000 at ang investment natin ay 210,000. Kaya naman, ang accounting rate of return natin ay 9.52%. Okay, so what does it mean? Every year, we're going to recover 9.52% of our investment. Pero assuming na nakadeduct po dyan yung depreciation expense natin. Kaya pag tinignan natin, sa payback reciprocal, every year we're going to recover 26.19% kasi sa payback reciprocal, remember, cash return na pinag-uusapan natin, naka-add back yung depreciation expense. Okay? So that would be for problem number 1. Requirements in problem number 2 are payback period and accounting rate of return. Kamukha lang sana siya ng problem 1 except that yung cash returns natin ay hindi equal, okay, for the entire 6 years. Same amount of investment na 210,000. Ang tanong, kailan natin mababawi yung 210,000 na investment natin? So let us compute for the cumulative na cash flow. Once we are able na mag-pass sa ating investment or mag-equal sa investment natin, we have to stop. Okay? Kasi ang gusto natin malaman dito, kailan lang siya mag-reach ng 210,000. So that would be 30,000 for year 1. Year 2, 30 plus 40. So that is 70,000. Year 3, 70 plus 50, 120. And then ito, 120 plus 60, 180,000. Mukhang malapit na. And then 180 plus 180, 360,000. Oops, stop tayo dyan because ang investment ay 210,000. So, ibig sabihin, payback period will happen between 4th and 5th year. So, payback would be equal to 4 plus. If you look at this, itong 180,000, kulang na lang ng konting amount bago na mabawi yung investment natin. So, magkano yung kulang na, yun yung denominator natin. So, that would be 210 minus 180, 30,000. Okay? And then, what will be your denominator? Ano yung cash flow in the coming year? So, that is 180,000. Okay? Therefore, our payback is 4.17 years. Okay? Kung titingnan natin, parang ang tagal-tagal mabawi nung ating investment which is 210,000. Pero if you try to look at the 5th and 6th year, parang doon lumobo yung cash returns natin. Yun yung isa sa sinasabi natin na disadvantage ng payback period na ang gusto lang niyang makita is yung return of investment. Kailan mababawi? Hindi niya nakikita yung mabuti yung return on investment. Meaning, from this makikita natin na nai-ignore niya yung mga cash returns after ng payback period. Okay, so that's one, payback period. And then we are asked also to compute for the accounting rate of return. So yung ARR natin, as we have mentioned kanina, is your net income over your investment. But since cash returns yung binigay sa atin dito, so ang ating net income would be cash returns plus your depreciation expense over your investment. Okay? So if you look at this, ang cash return natin ay iba-iba. So what we're going to do is to get the average cash return. So if we get the total of all the cash returns for 6 years, that would be how much? So that would be 30 plus 40, okay, plus 290. So the total is 650,000. So the average cash return is something divided by 6. So that would be 108,333. So 108,333 minus the depreciation expense of magkano ulit? 210,000 ang ating investment divided by 6 years. So that is 35,000 na depreciation expense. So that would be 35,000 over the investment of, magkano investment natin? 210,000. Okay? So your accounting rate of return this time is how many percent? That is 34.92%. Okay? So if you look at the ARR, kasi ang sabi natin advantage ng ARR, mas nakikita niya yung profitability ng project. Kaya naman, kanina, yung unang problem natin, earlier ang payback period, pero yung rate of return, yung accounting rate of return niya is much lower, which is 9% only. Pero ito, 34.92. Pero nasan yung part na nandun yung profit? Yun yung part na nandito sa 5th and 6th year. So yun. Kaya yung iba, be careful with what method you are using. So, you may use payback period, pero try to consider also the accounting rate of return. Kasi baka meron kang hindi nakikita sa payback period na pwede mo makita sa accounting rate of return. Okay? So, that is problem number 2. So, let's move to problem number 3. We are only asked for accounting rate of return in problem number 3. So, ARR is again equal to your net income over your investment. Okay? So, ang net income natin again, kasi ang binigay sa atin ay cash return na 17,500. So, palagi yung ginagawa ng examiner na baka mamaya ma-focus ka na cash return ang gawin mong numerator. Okay, so make sure ang cash return ay 17,500. Anong gagawin? We add back the depreciation expense. And then over your investment na, magkano investment natin here? 100,000. Magkano depreciation expense natin for this problem? Ang investment natin ay 100,000. Ano ang useful life nito? That would be for 20 years. So, ibig sabihin, 5,000 per year yung ating depreciation expense. So, if this is 5,000, this is minus rather. Cash return minus 5,000. So, this is 12,500 over 100,000. Ibig sabihin, the accounting rate of return is 12.5%. Okay? So, that is your problem number 3. Okay, in problem number 4, bailout period na tinatanong. Parang payback period din, pero sabi natin, ang difference niya, every year, kasama sa, hindi lang cash returns ang kinoconsider natin, kasama yung estimated na salvage value sa pag-compute ng total na recovered value natin. And every year, nagbabago yung estimated salvage value natin. So let's solve this problem. Okay, so gawa lang tayo ng table for year 1. Ano ba ang cash returns natin? Actually, yung sa given natin, even yung cash returns natin na 18,000. Okay? Tapos, let's compute for the cumulative na cash returns natin. Okay, for year 1, that would be 18,000. Year 2, ang na-recover natin out of our cash returns ay 36. Ito ay 54,000. Ito ay 72,000. This one is 90,000. So using the cash returns, ito yung mga nare-recover natin. Okay? Pero sabi nga natin sa bailout, kasama si salvage value or yung ating residual value. Every end of the year, ina-estimate natin. So year 1, ang ating salvage value ay 10,000. Pati year 2, 10,000 po yan. Yun ang sabi sa problem. Year 3 and year 4 magbabago, magiging 7,500 yung mga yan. Okay? And year 5, yung residual value natin ay 5,000 na lang. So, pababa rin yung ating salvage value. Kaya naman from here, yung total na recovered value natin would be how much? Okay? Total recovered value. So that would be the sum of your cumulative na cash return plus your salvage value. Kumbaga, just in case na maisip mo na ibenta this at the end of this year, yung project or yung equipment mo, for example, ibig sabihin ganito yung total na na-recover mo for a year. Okay? So, for year 1, 28,000 ang ating na-recover. For year 2, that would be 36 plus 10, that is 36,000. That is 46,000. Oops, dito pa lang, kita natin, because our investment is 45,000. Dito pala, kita natin na bawi na natin yung ating initial investment. So therefore, ang question, ano yung bailout period? So mangyayaring bailout period between first and second year. So that would be bailout period is equal to 1 plus. Okay? So end of first year, magkano na lang ang kulang natin? So 45,000 minus 28,000, 17,000. The following year, magkano ang papasok na cash recovered sa atin? So that would be 46,000 minus your 28,000. Ito po, yung difference nilang dalawa. Okay? So, ang difference nila ay 18,000. So, ang bailout period natin would be 1.94 years. Okay? So, that is bailout period. Try lang natin computin si payback period and compare. So, si payback natin is simply your 45,000 na investment divided by your annual cash return na 18,000. So what would be your answer? 45 divided by 18, so that is 2.5 years. Okay? So sabi ni payback period, 2.5 years bago mabawi. Sabi ng bailout, 1.94 years lang mababawi mo na. Si bailout, kino-consider yung salvage value. Si payback, hindi. Okay? So that would be for problem number 4. Alright, in problem number 5, this is the start wherein we are going to use the method that consider the time value of money. So ang tinatanong sa atin ay discounted payback period, your net present value, your profitability index, and your internal rate of return. Okay, so 4 na methods agad yung gagamitin natin sa problem na to. Okay? Pero, at first, even yung cash flows ng situation natin. Okay? So, what we're going to do is to get the present value of all these cash returns. Kasi kung payback lang ang pinag-uusapan natin, yung payback period is, magkano investment natin here? 180,000. Okay? Divided by 50,000. So, lumalabas na 3.6 years. Sabi ng payback. Pero sabi kaya ng discounted payback, is it longer or is it shorter? So let us find out later. So discounted payback, tingnan natin kung shorter or longer. So, we need to get the present value. So kunin muna natin yung present value factor natin. How do we get the present value factor? That is actually your weighted average cost of capital plus 1. Ang WACC natin or weighted average cost of capital ay 12%. So, 1 divided by 1.12. So, ito ay 1 divided by 1.12. So, that is 0.8929. 0.8929. Okay? Divide ulit natin ang 1.12. So, this is 0.7972. Okay? If you are using your scientific calculator, pag divide mo ulit yun, equal ka na lang na equal for the present value factor. Okay? Kaya lang, sa Sipali ngayon, ang ginagamit natin ay yung basic na calculator. Kaya, hindi pwede natin, hindi ko na i-share sa inyo yung mga shortcuts or techniques natin sa scientific calculator. Okay? Doon muna tayo sa basic calculator. So, with that, answer divided by 1.12, the answer is 7.7118. So in other words, kunin mo lahat ng present value factor. At yung factors na yun, i-multiply natin sa cash returns for us to come up with our present value. Okay? So I'll do it for a while. Okay, so ito yung mga present value factor natin after deriving that. Dito sa dulo, that would be 1 divided by 1.12 to the 7th power. Okay. So to get your present value, ang gagawin lang natin, multiply natin yung cash return and your present value factor. So for this one, that would be 50,000 times 0.8929. Okay, so that is 44,645. So ganun gagawin natin, multiply po natin yan sa lahat ng items. Okay, so let's do it for a while. Okay, so after multiplying your cash returns and your present value factor, ito po yung lahat na lumabas sa atin. So this time, we are going to calculate the cumulative present value of our cash returns. Okay, ito yung PV of our cash returns. Okay, for year 1, that is 44,645. For year 2, add po natin ito. That would be 84,505. Okay, by the way, once na ito ay mag-reach na sa ating investment of 180,000, we have to stop now. Okay? So for our year 3, that would be 120,095. For your year 4, so 120,095 plus 31, that is 151,870. And then add natin yung 28,370. 180,240. Oops! So, lumagpas na ng 180,000. So, this time, nangyari pala yung discounted payback period between 4th and 5th year. Okay? Discounted payback period is 4 plus. Again, magkano na lang ba yung kulang dito sa numerator natin? So, that would be 180,000 minus 151,870. All over, magkano po yung denominator natin? The denominator natin would be the present value of cash return the following year. So, itong 28,370. So, therefore, ang discounted payback period natin ay 4.99 years. So, mas malayo siya if you compare with simple na payback period. Why? Kasi, yung present value ng cash returns ang kinonsider natin, not the absolute value of your cash returns in the future. Okay? So that's number 1, discounted payback period. So we are asked also for the net present value. If you can see, nag-stop tayo dito because na-reach na niya yung ating investment. Pero isa rin niya sa hindi nakikita ng discounted payback period kahit na nagko-consider na tayo value of money, yung mga susunod na periods. Okay? So ang gawin natin, we just get the sum of all the present value of cash returns. The total is 228,185. Okay? Actually, pag tinuloy natin to, this is 205,570. And this one is also 228,185. Okay? Getting the sum of all those present value is also this one. Okay. So what do we get now? We are to compute for our NPV, net present value. So what do we have here? The present value of your cash returns less your investment. Okay? Ang present value ng cash returns natin ay 228,185. Okay? So, ang ating investment ay 180,000. So, from here, ang NPV natin, we have to deduct this. So, that would be 48,185. Okay? That is your net present value. Ang question is, are we going to invest on this project? As long as this is greater than 0 or even equal to 0, you have the option na pwede mong ituloy yung project. Okay? Kasi wala namang sinabing acceptance criteria. Ibig sabihin, basta positive, okay yan. Pero pag sinabi ng management na ang gusto ng net present value ay 100,000, therefore, even if this is positive, hindi mo tatanggapin or hindi mo ipupursue yung project na yan because that is below the that did not satisfy the acceptance criteria. Okay? But wala naman sinabi, that is why we are going to proceed with the project kasi NPV is positive. Pero kanina sa discounted payback period, ang sabi sa atin, a 4-year discounted payback period is acceptable to Mr. Hopia. So if you can see here, That's 4.99 years. So do we accept? The answer is no, because that is longer than the acceptable na period. So gusto lang ni area o ng management na mas maaga nang mabawi yung kanyang investment. Okay, so that is not accepted. Pero if you just look at the payback period, yung hindi nagko-consider na tayo value of money, it is actually accepted. Okay? So let's continue. So ang next na isa-solve natin ay PI or Profitability Index. Kung sa net present value, kinuha natin yung difference ng dalawa na to, so PV minus the investment. Dito naman, that would be present value of your cash returns over investment. Okay? Since this is positive, we expect that the profitability index is more than 1. So that would be 228, 185 divided by 180,000. Okay? So ano ngayon ang profitability index natin? The answer is 1.27. Again, we can accept this project provided na wala namang sinabing acceptance criteria na stricter than the result. Okay, this time we're going to compute the internal rate of return or IRR. Okay? IRR is the point wherein the present value of cash return ay equal sa initial investment. Okay? So in our case, pag nakita natin to, present value over cash return is equal to your present value factor. Multiply natin ang cash return natin, which is 50,000, is equal to initial investment. Okay? So gawin natin. So present value factor natin ay nawawala. Times your cash return na 50,000 and then initial investment of 180,000. So present value factor is 3.6. This time, we are going to look for the rate na merong present value factor na 3.6. So how do we do it? Kapag walang choices or kapag ang choices ay for example, between 8% and 10%, between 4% and 6%, so we have to do interpolation, meaning we have to test kung itong mga rates na to ay iipitin yung ating present value factor here. So for example, yung rate na 18%, ano ang present value factor ng 18%? The answer is 3.8115. Okay? So kung yan ang present value factor, tingnan natin yung 20%. The present value factor here kapag 20 ay 3.6046. The question is, naipit ba niya yung present value factor? The answer is no. Kaya naman, ang gagawin natin, we have to think of another rate na iipitin talaga yung 3.6. So most likely, kung gusto mo bumaba yan, dapat taasan mo yung ating rate. So let us make use of 22%. So kapag 22% ang lalabas po, pag 22% ang lalabas sa atin ay 3.4155. Okay, so that is our rate. So this time, naipit na natin yung 3.6 and that is between 3.4155 and 3.6046. Okay? So, we will do some interpolation here. Tanggalin na natin sa 18, hindi na yan kasali. Okay? Yung totoong rate natin ay nasa gitna. Okay? Kaya ang gusto natin mangyari, ano ba yung difference nitong dalawa at saka yung difference ng rate ng 20 and 22 at difference ng rate ng 20 at ng true rate. So that would be, let's show, 3.6046. Tapos ang true rate ay 3.6. Okay. So ang difference natin here would be 0.1891. Sa kabila, 0.0046. Okay? So this time, let's do the interpolation. Yung true rate natin is equal to 20% plus yung difference na to, 0.0046 over 0.1891. Okay? So the answer is, wait lang, mumultiply natin sa difference ng rate ng ginamit natin. 22 minus 20 is 2. So the answer is 20.05%. Okay? So that would be your IRR, yung true rate natin or yung ating internal rate of return. And that is the point wherein the PV over CR is equal to your initial investment. And ibig sabihin, yung NPV natin ay 0 o yung PI natin or profitability index ay equal to 1. Okay? So that would be for your IRR. Okay, halimbawa lang naman, nasa exam, syempre may choices tayo sa exam, tapos IRR ang tanong. Okay? So, sa situation natin here, same problem, yung problem natin kanina. Ito yung choices natin. What we're going to do is just to make a trial and error. Alin kaya dito sa mga rates na to ang magbibigay sa atin ng equal sa present value factor na hinahanap natin. In our case, ang present value factor na hinahanap natin ay 3.6. So, ang gagawin mo na lang, kunin mo yung present value factors ng apat na yan. So, syempre, nung ginamit natin yung 16, ang lalabas ay 3. Ang lalabas ay 4.0386. Kapag 80% ang ginamit natin, ang lalabas ay 3.8115. Kapag 20% lalabas ay 3.604. Kapag ito, 6046. And then pag 22% ang lalabas ay 3.4155. Ibig sabihin, from here, tingnan na lang natin, alin kaya yung mag-equal sa hinahanap nating present value factor. Trial and error lang. Para hindi na tayo mag-interpolate kung hindi natin masyadong na-appreciate kung paano ba talaga mag-interpolate. Okay? But sometimes, yung choices are like this. Between 14 and 16%, between 17 and 19, 20 and 21, 22 and 23. Okay? So, pag trinay mo yung 14 and 16, ang hahanapin mo, alin naman yung iipit or iipitin yung 3.6. So, pag trinay natin yan, alam natin ang iipit sa 3.6 ay itong letter C, between 20 and 21%. So again, subukan mo lang kunin yung present value factors na. Okay? But just in case hindi tayo masyado familiar with the present value factor, since equal po yung ating cash return, so gamitin lang natin yung present value factor of ordinary annuity. So that would be 1 minus 1 plus R raised to the negative n all over R, wherein R is your rate na kino-consider, and then n is the number of periods. And in our case, we have 7 years na kino-consider. Okay? So after doing that, lalabas, dapat ang lumabas, ang pipiliin natin ay yung lalabas na equal dun sa present value factor na hinahanap natin, which is 3.6. So that would be for problem number 5. Okay, in problem number 6, kamukha lang ng 5 except that the cash returns ay hindi na even, but magkakaiba na for years 1 to 7. Okay, so here are your cash returns for problem number 6. And again, your present value factor, how did we arrive on this? So that would be 1 divided by 1.12 raised to kung ano man yung year na pinag-uusapan natin. Okay, so for this part, 1 divided by 1.12 raised to 7. Okay, so that would be your present value factor. And your present value here were computed. Paano nakuha? So, cash returns times your present value factor. So, I computed all the present value here. Okay, so discounted payback period. So, that would be, abangan ulit natin kailan magiging 180,000 yung ating cumulative present value of your cash return. So for this one, this is 35,716. Then for year 2, it will now become 75,576. Year 3, it will become 118,284. And then year 4, 118,284 plus 5840. So add lang ulit natin 169,124. Medyo malapit na tayo. So 169 plus 45. So that would be 214,516. Stop there. Okay? So lumagpas na tayo sa 180,000. So yung discounted payback period will happen between 4th and 5th year. So that would be 4 plus, again, magkano na lang ba yung kulang dito sa numerator natin? So 180,000 minus 169,124 divided by, ano yung pag-divide natin? That would be your present value of cash return on the 5th year. So that is 45,392. So the answer would be how many years? 4.24 years. Okay? So it will take 4.24 years bago natin babawi yung ating investment using the discounted payback period. Okay. So, ang tanong, is this acceptable? Again, hindi. Because the acceptable na discounted payback period ay 4 years only. And this is more than the 4 years na acceptable. Masyadong mahaba compared sa desired ng owners or ng management. Now, let's compute for your NPV. So, ito, computing natin, diretso na natin hanggang dulo. Or we get the sum of all the present values here. So that would be 277,116. Okay? That is the total of your present value of cash returns. So NPV again is equal to present value of cash returns less your initial investment or net investment. Present value is 277,116 minus your investment na 180,000. So, your NPV is equal to 97,116 positive. Okay? So, do we invest on this project? The answer is yes. Wala namang sinabi acceptance criteria for NPV. Okay? Kalimutan muna natin yung discounted payback na 4 years. NPV lang ang focus natin. So, the answer is yes. Okay? Unless the acceptance criteria calls for NPV na equal or greater than 100,000. So in that case, hindi na rin natin i-accept yung project na yan. Okay, so to continue, let's compute for the profitability index. So PI is equal to the 277,116 divided by 180,000. So your profitability index is 1.54. Okay, so that would be your answers. Discounted payback na 4.24 years, NPV na 97,116, and profitability index of 1.54 for problem number 6. Let's move to the next. Problem 7 asks for the annual cash return provided by the new machine and also for the payback period and your net present value or NPV using the hurdle rate of 15%. Okay? So I have here yung performance in the past year. And then sabi rito, after purchasing the new machine, the sales are expected to increase by 20%. So meaning that is the effect of having the new machine. So yun lang i-account natin for number 1. Because we would like to know the annual cash returns brought by our new machine. So, increase ng 20%, meaning your sales will become 360,000 or yung para sa new machine lang ang pag-uusapan natin. Ibig sabihin, ang dala-dala niyang sales ay yung 20% or 60,000. Okay? For your variable cost, that is actually 180 over 300 which is 60%. So 60% of this is 36,000. That is your variable cost. For your fixed cost, kung wala namang changes na nangyari as is lang. Pero sabi rito, the only additional fixed expense is the depreciation on the new machine. So, ibig sabihin, ang depreciation natin is 50,000 kasi yung new machine. Ang useful life niyan ay para sa 5 years. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ang depreciation expense natin every year ay 10,000. So, yun lang yung dagdag na fixed cost natin. So, ang income before tax brought by the machine ay 60 minus 46,000. That would be 14,000 pesos. Okay? So, ang tax niya, if ever, so 6 over 20, that is 30%. So, 30% of this is how much? That is 4,200. Okay? So, this is 30%. And meaning, ang net income na dala-dala ng new machine ay 9,800. But this is the net returns. Ang tinatanong ay annual after-tax cash returns or cash inflow. So, ibig sabihin, ang gagawin na lang natin is to add back the depreciation expense na 10,000. So, therefore, ang ating annual cash returns ay 19,800. So, for number 1, that is the answer. Annual cash net and after-tax cash inflow. Okay, for number 2, we're asked for the payback period. Since ito ay expected na annual cash return for 5 years, ang ating payback period would be, so payback is equal to, ang investment natin on this machine ay 50,000 divided by the annual cash return of 19,800. How long will it take us to recover? And that is 2.53 years. Okay, that is our payback. So, tinatanong ngayon ay net present value. So, what do we need to know is the present value of cash returns. So, present value of your cash returns is how much? Ang cash return natin ay 19,800. Multiply natin ang present value factor para sa ordinary annuity for 5 years na ang gamit natin ay 15%. After doing that, the present value factor is 3.3522. 3.3522. Again, paano nakuha yun? Ito po yung ating present value factor. So, 1 minus 1.15 raised to the negative 5 years over 0.15. So, that is your present value factor. So, 3.3522. So, that amounts to 66,373.56. Or, round off na natin, 66,374. Okay? And then, NPV ang tanong, minus natin yung net investment natin na 50,000. So therefore, your NPV is 16,374. Okay? Do we invest on this project? The answer is, wala namang acceptance criteria, so we can say yes. Okay? So these are the answers. For number 1, that's 19,800. For number 2, the payback period is 2.53 years. And number 3, we have the NPV of 16,374. Okay, so let's move to problem number 8. Problem number 8 talks about mutually exclusive projects. For example, a company wants to enter into project wherein una, magkalaban pala yung dalawang franchise na gusto niyang kuhanin. Di ba? Jollibee and McDonald's. Alam nga naman, meron siyang Jollibee, meron siyang McDonald's at the same time. Or 7-Eleven and Mini-Stop. So magkaiba yun. So hindi na pwedeng piliin parehas at the same time. Kahit na profitable, yung dalawang projects hindi niya pwedeng piliin parehas. Ibig sabihin, you really have to choose between or among the options. O kaya, hindi naman pwede na gawin mo sa project na to, talagang makakasira naman sa image mo if you do this other project. So, for whatever reasons, hindi pwedeng piliin parehas, so really have to choose one among or between the options. Okay, so we have projects A and B na parehas na merong 2,000 na initial investment, yung year 0 natin. At kung makikita natin, yung ating cash returns, 200, 400, 600, 700, and 900, kaparehas lang siya ni Project B, kaya lang pabaliktad. Nauna yung 900, 700, 600, 400 at nahuli naman yung 200. So this time, we will see as to cash returns, yung peso value niyan, parehas lang. Pero which one is really better? Project A ba or Project B? Tingnan lang natin or silipin lang natin, what if we make use of payback period, alin kaya ang pipiliin natin? So let's check. For this one, we have to get a cumulative na cash flow. So that would be 200. So this one is 600. Next is 1, 2. Next is 1, 9. Tapos 2,800. Oops, halos masagad natin dito, no? So between 4th and 5th year mangyayari yung payback period natin. So payback is equal to 4 plus, ang kulang na lang natin sa 4th year ay 100. So 100 over ang susunod na cash return natin ay 900. So this is 4.11 years. Okay, for project A. For project B, let's check. So that would be 900, tapos 1,600. So 2,200. Dito pa lang, mukhang nasatisfy na yung investment natin. So between second and third year, so 2 plus, ang kulang na lang natin sa second year ay 400. Ang cash flow natin in the following year ay 600. Ito. So that would be 2.66 years or 2.67 years. Bawi na natin yung ating investment. Okay? Using payback, we are going to choose project B. Okay? What if we make use of a method that considers the time value of money, which is net present value. So we are going to get the net present value of these two projects. Okay? So again, what do we need? The present value factor. Okay, so ang gagamitin natin ng cost of capital or hurdle rate ay 10%. So to get the present value factor, that would be 1 divided by 1.10 for this part, and that is anong present value factor natin? That is 0.9091. Then for the second year and up to the 5th year, so we will compute for that. Okay, so we got this present value after we multiply the cash return with the present value factor. Okay, so for your project A, ito ang present value natin at ang total niyan ay 2,000. For project B, ang total ng present value natin, we multiply 900 by the present value factor here, and so on. 200 times 0.6209, we got 124. So the total present value for this one is 2,245. Okay, looking at the present value of our cash returns, mukhang meron na tayo napili. Okay, but we are using the net present value. So to get the NPV, so that would be, ito yung present value of your cash return. We are going to deduct the initial investment, which is 2,000 also. Ibig sabihin, NPV for project A is 0. Ibig sabihin, bawi lang. For project B, ang NPV natin minus the 2,000 initial investment, NPV is positive 245. So which one tayo mag-i-invest? Is it A or B? So the answer is B. Kasi mas malaki yung kanyang NPV. Okay? Kunwari lang, ang lumabas dito ay negative 200. Tapos, dito ang lumabas ay positive as is 245. So ano pipiliin natin? Yung negative 200 or positive 245? The answer is of course very obvious na positive 245. What if this time? Ito ay negative 200, ito ay negative 245. Okay? Isang negative 200, isang negative 245. So alin ang pipiliin natin? Is it A or B? Is it the lower loss? The answer is wala. Kasi hindi pa nangyayari yung mga businesses na to, iniisip pa lang natin kung mag-invest tayo or hindi. So pag nakita kaagad natin na negative to, huwag na tayo mag-invest. So the answer is wala. Okay? So, that ends for problem number 8. So, let's move to the next. Okay, problem number 9 is about capital rationing. Okay, there are several acceptable na projects. Ngayon, ang tanong, alin dito yung i-accept natin? Siyempre, ang tinitingnan natin, yung mas malaking profit na pwedeng dalhin sa atin, yun yung mas gusto natin na pasukin ng mga investment projects. Now, what if there are several, pero meron tayong limited lang na budget or fund na available? Okay? So, this time, we have the initial outlay for several projects and your present value of cash return. Walang sinabi kung ano gagamitin natin ng pang-evaluate. Okay? So, what if we make use of NPV as our method to evaluate? So, NPV natin for project A, so that would be, paki-minus, 22,500 ang NPV here. This one is 10,000. Ito ay 60,000. And then this one, walang NPV, 0. Pwede ba tayo mag-invest sa letter D? The answer is, pwede. Kasi equal naman, wala namang mawawala sa atin. Okay? Pero, yun nga lang, kahit anong effort mo, same naman pala ilalabas, it is as good din na parang hindi din tayo gumawa ng project na yan. So, it depends on the company. Okay? Then going back here, this is 10,000, pero negative. Mas malaki yung initial outlay kaysa sa present value of your cash returns. Okay? And this one is 40,000. If we look at NPV, tingnan natin alin na priority natin. Siyempre may pinakamalaking NPV and that is number 1 yung letter C. Ang number 2 natin ay si F. Ang number 3 natin ay A. Number 4, B. Number 5, pwede pa rin si D. Okay? Pero pag ang tanong sa exam, which of the following could add value? Hindi nakasama si D. Kasi hindi mag-add ng value kasi equal lang. Okay? So going back here, for letter E, hindi na po yan kasama sa ating mga pamimilian kasi negative yung kanyang NPV. Okay? So tanggal na si E. And then, let's try to look what if ang ating basis ay si profitability index. So looking at PI, ano ang profitability index natin for project A? So let's solve. Okay? So we have here 1.25. So how do we get that? So that would be 112,500 divided by initial outlay of 90. So that is 1.25 for A. For B, that is 1.125. 90 over 80. So this one is 180 over 120. That is 1.5. And this one, 1. Ito ay 0.75. Oops, X na uli ito. Kasi kapag less than 1, yung ating profitability index, hindi po natin kasama sa mga i-consider na project. And then for letter F, project F, the answer is 1.8. Okay? So looking at the profitability index, so alin na pipiliin natin? Anong priority natin ay si letter F? So magkaiba. Kanina si C ang number 1, ngayon si letter F na. Ang number 2 natin ngayon ay si letter C. Nagpalit sila ng pwesto. Ang number 3 natin ay si letter A pa rin. Ang number 4 ay si B. Number 5 to. At syempre, hindi na kasama si letter E. Ang question is, what if unlimited ang fund natin? Alin-alin ang pipiliin natin na project? So, using NPV, lahat ng positive kasama to? Yes. Pati itong F. Tanggal lang si E. Pero using PI, alin ang kasama? Lahat except E. Kasi ang tanong, alin ang pwede natin gawin? Kasi unlimited naman yung fund natin. Of course, hindi natin pipiliin si E kasi mababawasan yung ating value if we do that because it's negative NPV and less than 1 na PI. Pero ang tanong, which of the projects would add value to the company using NPV? Ano ang pipiliin natin na projects? Lahat except E and except D. Because D will not add value to the company. Okay? Using PI, alin ang pipiliin natin? Lahat din except E and except D because of the same reason. Now, the fund available is only 300,000. So, ano ang pipiliin natin? So, let's make use of NPV. NPV. Okay? For number 1. Ano pipiliin natin? Ang priority natin sa NPV ay C. So, project C, magkano ang requirement natin? 120,000 ang budget niyan. Okay? So, we still have 180,000 more. And then, we go to the next priority. Itong letter F. Magkano investment? 50,000. Oops, si F. 50,000 ang investment. So, magkano na so far? 170. So, we still have 130. Can we go to the third one? The third one has 90,000 outlay. If we add 90,000 here, do we still have budget? 120, 50, 170 plus 90, 260,000. So, that is for A. Can we still add number 4? That's 80,000. Hindi nakakasya because the budget is only 300,000. So, we can only add the projects C, F, and A. Okay? Pero kapag PI ang ginamit natin, for number 1 din, itong 300,000 na fund available, anong projects ang ma-accept natin? Okay, so that would be C, for PI ang priority ay C, F. So that would be F muna, na 50,000. Okay, and then number 2, C. So that would be for 120,000. The number 3, C, A. For 90,000. So, parehas lang sila na 260,000. Okay? 260,000. So, parehas lang sa NPV at PI or profitability index ang mapipili natin if our budget is 300,000. Okay? So, that's for number 1. So, what if this time, ang budget natin is only 150,000? So, let's check. What will happen? Okay, so let's erase this. For number 2, ang budget ay 150,000. Using NPV, so look at NPV, ang priority ay si C. So kay C, magkano kailangan mo? 120,000. Priority number 2 is si F. Magkano kailangan mo? 50. Hindi nakakasya sa 150,000 kasi 120 na to plus 50 lalagpas na magiging 170,000. So, ibig sabihin, the only project if NPV will be used to evaluate is project C. Okay? And then, let's try what if profitability index ang ginamit natin. Ang priority ay si F. So, F ang piliin natin. Magkano initial outlay? 50,000. The second priority is C. Ang initial outlay ay 120,000. Hindi pwede kasi lalagpas. 120 plus 50 is 170. Let's go to the third one. The third one has 90,000 na requirement. Pasok ba? Yes. Because si Project A, 90,000 requirement, pag tinotal natin, 140,000. So, looking at this, na makikita natin na pag iniba mo yung evaluation methods na gagamitin mo to evaluate the projects, possible, iba rin yung magiging decision natin. So like this, pag NPV, project C. Pag profitability index, projects A and F yung pipiliin natin. So magkaiba yung lalabas na decision or recommendation natin. Okay? So that would be for problem number 9. Okay, in problem number 10, our initial investment is 100,000. Now, there are two alternative ways of computing the depreciation. It's either you make use of the straight line method or declining one. Okay? The question is, ano ang difference between the two methods in the present value of the depreciation tax benefit? Provided na ang tax rate natin ay 40%, tapos ang ating cost of capital ay 10%. Or in other words, parang tinatanong, alin dito ang mas okay na depreciation method? The straight line or the declining method? So let's see. So, yung tax benefit natin can be computed yung tax rate times the depreciation. And then the tax rate is 40%. So for method 1 and method 2, so that would be 8,000 sa lahat ng years natin for method 1. Okay? For method 2, ang ating tax benefit ay 40% of that is 16,000. And then ito ay 12,000, 8,000, and then here 4,000, and then of course here 0. Okay? So the question is, parehas naman sila ng tax benefit if you get the total. Pero syempre, may effect po ang time value of money. So which one has the better na present value of the depreciation tax benefit? So, ang ating tax rate na 40% at ang ating cost of capital na 10%, let's get the present value of this. Okay? Since pare-parehas to, we can make use of the present value of ordinary annuity. So 1 minus 1.10 to the negative 5 all over 0.10. So what is our present value factor? And that is 3.7908. Okay? So itong 3.7908, 8,000. So, ang present value natin dito, so 8,000 times 3.7908. So, the answer is 33,000. Let's say 30,326.40. Okay, so that is your present value kapag straight line yung ating depreciation method. So, what if declining yung depreciation method natin? So, for each of the year, multiply natin ang present value factor. For this one, ang present value factor ay 1 divided by 1.1. So that would be 0.9091. Ito naman ay 0.8264, 0.7513, and 0.6830. So ito, wag na lang. Okay? So ang present value natin ngayon, multiply lang natin yung 16,000 and by the present value factor. So that would be 14,545.60. This is, and okay, so pinag-multiply lang naman natin yung tax benefit with our present value factor. So the total present value factor of the tax benefit under method 2 is 33,204.80. Okay? So as you can see here, mas malaki yung tax benefit natin from the declining method. By how much? Get the difference of the two. That is by the amount of 2,878.40. Okay? So, mas malaki yung impact sa atin ng depreciation expense kapag declining yung ating method. So that would be for problem number 10. So, let's proceed with the last problem. For our last problem, so here are the given. We have the initial investment of 20,000. Useful life niya ay 8 years. And then the tax rate is 25%. Because of that investment, we will have the net cash receipts, which is before tax na 6,000. Okay? So we are asked for the payback period. So pag payback period ang tinatanong sa atin, this is just your investment divided by your cash returns. Okay? Your net cash returns. So we just have to determine kung magkano yung cash returns kasi ang investment na natin ay 20,000. So how do we get the net cash return? Meron na tayong net cash receipts before tax. So therefore, yung after tax niyan is multiply lang natin to ng 75%. So that is 4,500. But of course, this is after tax na net cash receipts. Siyempre, yung effect ng depreciation, na i-add back na natin ng depreciation, pero hindi pa po lahat. Yung tax benefit natin, we have to add back. So, ang depreciation expense natin ay, pag dinivide natin ang 20,000 by 8 years, so the depreciation expense is 2,500. So we have the tax benefit or tax savings na 2,500. Multiply natin ng 25% and that is 625. Therefore, your cash receipt would be 5,125. Okay? So, substituting here sa cash return, so that would be 5,125. So, your payback period is 3.90 years. Okay? So, meaning after 3.9 years, you will be able to recover all your investments. Okay? Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have learned something about capital budgeting. I hope nakatulong tayo sa review natin. And I hope to see you in my next video. So please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you have questions, please, you can just send to my email, ryancanonroque@yahoo.com, and I'll get back to you once na ma-receive at mabasa ko yung mga email ninyo. So thank you so much. So ingat po tayo lahat. God bless us all and thank you again so much. Bye.